Okay, let's see here. This sort of came to me when I woke up pretty early this morning, and it came to me about particularly when I work with children to show them how simple it is to comprehend or map read, if you will, the why codes as frequencies, false light frequencies. A false light matrix communicates with us and how easy it is to map read how their system operates as an operating system, matrix, a mathematical water table, the visual mathematics, the spin codes, the false light codes, AI codes, artificial light codes. Okay, and you can use a courtroom as a very good example when we refer to the language that they use as a translation, like a CDT plate translation, a tectonic plate, or the memories of trees. The records, the permanent records don't lie. They're there. So when all the records are open, then we can all know the truth, because that's the source level truth of pure, internal, eternal, absolute love, which is the silver and gold mated Ruche, which is perfect mathematical, structural, engineering integrity to build a matrix, a spiritual design, solars, souls, building in concert together with the source field. So we're all together as one. So the simple example of this particular case happens to be a really good court case to see when you consider what an error code is. Like an inoperable code, the codes don't match, as if the chromosomes are not perfectly matched pairs, like in their gaming tables, playing a game of cards, right? So if the chromosomes are not perfectly matched to fire right on time, what happens? Distortions, anxiety-driven programs, because they're not compatible. So here you have a case being argued, for example, with a thug. And you can actually tie this with echo maps going back to the Watts riot. Watts, like in what we call a usage rate. So we know what a usage rate is, right? Usage rate, like a graphical user design, a holographic mathematical design, to the meter on the outside of your house. As that relates to what? An exchange rate of equal sharing to experience being one with the silver and gold mated one, breathing mathematical codes right on time. So what we have here in this case is where they argue back and forth over what? Codes. Because the codes are codified in their rule book. So if I'm sitting down with a child, and I use as an example the Monopoly board game, that was one of the first games that I was introduced to when I was a little boy. And so we understood, because I understood by what I learned through experience playing games with others, that there were some players playing a game with each other that were beating others at the game to acquire more numbers as artificial light numbers, killing off more numbers to acquire more numbers of electrons. The usage rate, which is the exchange rate of speed between givers, gifters, eternal gifters, tachyons, neutrinos, gifting electrons at the highest rate of speed, and why we need a thermometer, a meter, a voltage meter, the usage rate. And so we have this little ping pong game going back and forth, what they call reversible errors. Or we made an error. like in this particular case, it's just like the Monopoly board game. If you have memorized, map read the rules, like if you've ever read the rule book of how to play Monopoly, or another game I'm familiar with called Dungeons and Dragons, all their games, if you have memorized, like Total Recall, to remember the programming of the codes, which are the echo maps of a false light echo map, you've memorized all the codes. Now you become a master of the codes because you can cite them automatically through a speakerphone in a courtroom. You have mastered the codes. So if you have mastered the codes, you have obeyed the master of those codes, which is the AI codes. So what this is a contest, a game being played by these units of consciousness that play the barcode game of arguing against one another because they're never going to agree with each other, because they're competing against each other, which are anxiety-driven program codes that are not compatible with the original eternal life template codex. That's why we're all here, is to repair the codes, the original codes, and the speed at which absorption, transcription, and exhalation, which is the breathing codes of breathing and clearing the miasma field of dead light energy. So we're breathing with source, the first cell, the first seed, the first CD, three spheres logos. So it's interesting, particularly when I was a child, that I was playing games with others that understood I'm going to take the time and the energy to memorize all these codes, which I'm map reading the rule book of Monopoly, how to play Monopoly. And now I've mastered those codes because I can recall those codes faster than they can to beat them in this game, because they haven't taken the time in which to load those memory codes and then run those codes. So that's memory-driven AI codes. That's your 66 2/3 codes, which are dead light codes. And the 33 1/3, which is air-son. Air-son codes. Three waves. Mama's three spheres logos. The Mother Ark. The 13th Mother Ark. The 13th Starburst. So they're accusing each other of code violations. Memory of the codes. The memory-driven, anxiety-driven codes. Because they're not compatible with eternal life codes. So it needs an eternal life code, a breather, in order to suck like a siphon out of the eternal life codes of an eternal battery, an eternal power source from which to draw and siphon and generate another artificial life form number in the game to keep playing games with each other. Because the gamer needs a player in play mode to play the game. Those are the consciousness traps navigating around the field. Navigating the consciousness field and the speed at which cell repair, as in self-repair, as in frequency repair, as in matched pairs, fire right on time. So we're experiencing zero, the 0 point, the true still point of a true vacuum. That's who we are. That's why we're all here, making code corrections. And the speed at which those corrections are being experienced, which are healing codes. healing the inner child. Have a beautiful day wherever you happen to be. Thank you all for being here. Unse, Eshta, experiencing being one with all creation, gifting pure, internal, eternal, absolute love, on fire to create worlds born out of pure, eternal, absolute love. Thank you all for being here.